newest, biggest kick in Will Reichard's life. I mean, his professional life. He doesn't have a walk-off winner. He's a rookie from Alabama who hit from 58 versus Houston, and he's 5 of 5 on field goals this year. This is a 33-yard try between the hash marks to kick the Vikings to a 9-point lead. Snap spot. Reichard kicked up, and it's good. Yes. He's 6 of 6. Woo. Pete Bercich, analyst for the Minnesota Vikings radio network, with the woo when the Minnesota Vikings got that field goal from Will Reichard. And he's at Pete Bercich via Twitter, if you would like to follow for hardcore football takes. The vocalizing and verbalizing of the exasperation at the end of that game, that I guess I didn't really feel it during the game. It was a long game, and what a pendulum swing. Holy, I mean, 5.5 minutes to go in the first half, you're up 4 touchdowns at Lambeau Field, and you're going to win the game by 50 points. And then we got the Alabama kid hitting that field goal because he never misses, and the analyst going, "Woo!" I mean, what a swing of emotions for the analyst yesterday. And good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Here's the deal. I've been a Vikings fan for a long time. Not Rosen long, but for a long time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hate losing to that team, right?
Yeah. Being
up 28-0 right before halftime, and then the thought of losing that game up 28-0, let them come back, it would have killed me. Would have absolutely killed me.
They never were losing. So
it was one of that's the window through which I was watching that game. Like just thinking, well, they can come back, and then they get closer and closer, and you get the sack, the forced fumble, and they score again. It's just you're just sitting there going, okay, all right, this might happen.
I loved it, Pete, on the broadcast where you guys were actually kind of switching places in a way. It's emotional announcer, it's logical analyst. And there were times yesterday, including even as you were working your way towards the onside kick, where PA's like, no, we're going to be fine. And you're breaking down percentages and what's going to happen. They just need a field goal. Should have kicked it instead of going for it on the 4th and 1. It was like you two had switched places for a moment.
I think we do. The only times I think that happens would be either Green Bay, and then whenever we play Chicago.
Right.
Those are the 2 games that I allow myself, especially the Green Bay game, I allow myself just to get into it too much. So, because I don't care who you are, if you play professional football and you play a game in Lambeau Field and you win, you will remember it.
Right.
You will always remember those wins. You ask all those guys from '98, what game that year do they remember most? And a vast majority of them are going to say the Monday night game in Lambeau. 1998, they had that huge home winning streak and blah, blah, blah. Winning in Lambeau is a big deal, period. And part of it's because the Packers are so good. Part of it's because they've had one of the best quarterbacks in the league since 1993, 92. And it's a tough place to win, tough place to play. It's outside. It's in the grass. It reminds you of college, or, if you played football in Texas, maybe high school. But, it's Americana football, man. It's fun. Well, I don't like the team, so we have to beat them.
Well, I said this early in the show, and you being a former player and coach, hopefully it resonated with you. Hopefully you find it to be accurate, because just getting to know coaches the way I have over the years, I'm not going to say it's a perfect victory, because, you got, a lot of things started to turn toward the ending of the game and really the final 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes. But you stay undefeated. You beat a division rival. If you can get Seattle to beat Detroit tonight, holy cow, you've jumped up a couple in the NFC North through the first 23% of the season.
Yeah.
But the coaches can get together in the meeting today, and then when they get ready for the London game, and they have plenty to point at to keep the guys on point. Is that fair?
No, absolutely fair. I talked to Flores briefly after the game, and that was his sentiment exactly, Paul. You just nailed it. And then I said it during the game. The first half of that game, I don't think I've seen a defense operate that flawlessly. It was a thing of beauty the blitzes, and not only did they blitz and put pressure on the quarterback, but they knew what his go-to routes were going to be, where his hot routes were, and they had people there. The disguises were all just absolutely perfect, and that's how we shut that team down for almost an entire half, was through just brilliant execution. And then you fast forward to the second half, and then you had some mistakes, you had some zones that were empty, so things started to fall apart a little bit. And he didn't go on. We saw that part. He knows it, and he didn't tell me that, but he just said, yeah, there's a lot of good teaching film on this one. And that for a coach is great, because you could show them, hey, when we're on our game and we're doing things right, this is how good we are. And then on the same film, you just go to the second half and you show, hey, when we don't take care of business, this is how bad we can be. Because in the NFL, it's a razor's edge. It's so competitive, right? And then for the players, the only thing that they could do is, if you take a break watching film at halftime, is to go pull the fire alarm and get everybody out of the building so you don't have to watch the second half of the film. That's the only way they can get they can get out of a good rear end chewing for the second half performance, right?
Yeah.
So it's good to get that lesson, because you need it every once in a while, and most of the time it results in a loss. And in this case, they're fortunate enough and good enough and scored enough points where you don't have to lose a game to get that message. And it's a good time, because you're going to London, things are going to be different. It'll be a good motivator for everybody.
How about Packers coach old Matt LaFleur and the tantrum he threw? I mean, I honestly, and you got HOF Rosie in there with you. I heard him laugh. Maybe he can remember something from days gone by. Likewise for you. I can't remember the last time a coach was flagged for unsportsmanlike conduct, and that's what happened to LaFleur.
I certainly don't remember it, PA. When he was embarrassed, it certainly seemed like in his post-game comments, but I can't recall anyone that, certainly in the Vikings tenure or opposing coaches, and they've faced some very fiery coaches over the years, running down the sidelines and getting on the field like that in protest of not being able to get his time out or whatever he was upset about. But it was unusual, and he was pretty sheepish about it after the game.
Pete Bercich, analyst, Vikings Radio Network, cameo from HOF. Welcome to stick around the next few minutes if you have time, Rosie.
Rosie's not going anywhere.
Oh, that's
But think about this, Paul. My thought, too, was Vinovich is the one that's looking at all these replays. And, he's looking at his replay in the back of the mind. He's just rolling like a tape recorder in his head, whatever he said to him. Right, whatever LaFleur said to him, and he's like, "Yeah, okay, it's incomplete. Yeah, it's okay." You know what I mean? You kind of wonder sometimes if there's enough interpretation there that if you screw up and upset an official, that things may not go your way. Because we had more calls go our way in Lambeau than I can ever remember. And when I gawk in that building, my tackles are always up because of what's happened in the past, but. For replay-wise, we had a good day. Ryan had a good day up in the booth.
Let's land the plane, not necessarily on exactly what Flores shared with you, but, I mean, both of you guys are elite football minds. What are some things that led to things getting sloppy on defense? I mean, Hitman missed a tackle on a touchdown. Byron Murphy Jr. seemed to be having some problems out there until Love got greedy and foolishly threw up that punt, which was intercepted by Byron. But, in particular, what are some things that got sloppy?
I just saw some empty zones in certain coverages, so someone must have dropped a certain way or they didn't get a certain check. And then the other part of it, I think, comes with execution and what they were trying to do. Like you said, missed tackles is a big thing. Not get a couple mistakes with some coverages, inverted coverages, like the one where you had Metellus in the flat, and then Murphy was playing, either a deep half or a deep third up on top. And they let, I think it was Melton was the one that they just didn't even touch or didn't even go near. So you had some drops, some just little breakdowns. And it doesn't take much. It's just a mistake here, a mistake there. I think the being on the field a lot more in the second half, there's some of that enters in as well.
Hey, Pete and gentlemen, what did you see yesterday from Jordan Love? I mean, I'm watching it on my TV, and throughout that game, and part of the comeback, they have that 5 for 96 drive to make it interesting late. But this is a guy who threw for nearly 400 yards, had 4 TDs, also threw 3 picks, was still sticking with some of those throws off his back foot. And, I don't want to put him in a regression conversation just coming off the injury and such, but we saw him on opening night in Brazil. What did you see from Jordan Love yesterday? As you mentioned, this is a team, Pete, that's had one of the best QBs in the NFL since the early 90s, and now trying to make that 3 for 3 with Jordan Love. I got some questions about him as a Vikings fan.
Yeah, first of all, Nordo, I thought when the Vikings took that 28-0 lead, I'm thinking to myself, the Packers might be better served by putting Malik Willis in and making sure that Jordan Love stays healthy enough to continue on with this season, because he got up limping at one point after a play. I thought, man, you can't risk your future with this game, and what it looks like was completely out of hand at that point. But to their credit, they stuck with him, and he avoided injury, and he got hot. But I agree with you. I still think there's a lot left out there for Jordan Love to accomplish. But I was impressed with the way he came back and showed some resourcefulness against all odds when the Vikings looked like they were going to bury him deep into Lambeau Field.
And Rosie, to your point, I think it was the throw that he made on the wheel route right before halftime. That touchdown.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They said, okay, let's stick with it, because he was a little off, a little rusty. And it's also what the defense was doing. I know the interception that Shaq Griffin had. Cashman is blitzing. He's right in his face, so he has to throw the ball a little bit off target. And then that just snowballs because the ball's behind the receiver. Receiver tips it. Ball goes up in the air. Interception. We've had a few of those already. So I think I don't think he was necessarily rusty. I think a lot of the first half struggles he had was because our defense just executed brilliantly everything they set out to do, and then he was only 50% completion at halftime. That's what you saw against Philadelphia, and then in the second half, when games get lopsided and you have to run the hurry up offense and throw the football, he eventually got himself back into a groove. And I think by the end of that game, he was saying, man, if I felt like this at the beginning of the game, it would be a completely different story. So I think he found his groove by the end of it. That many throws, the knee got tested. So depending on how he feels this morning, if he's okay this morning or a little bit sore, then he's back. So, I thought he progressed a lot throughout the day.
Speaking of grooves, you staked that 14-point lead in the first quarter. Vikings did that a week ago against the Texans as well. We get the idea of starting fast, playing with the lead, always preferred to the other side of it at a deficit. But playing with that 28-point lead and staking that massive advantage, I felt not just in aspects of winning the game, but it got LaFleur out of this rushing attack, Pete, that is super effective and explosive. Like, they have figured out Jacobs, this Emmanuel Wilson cat. No Malik Willis, who drove some of that as well, now that Love's healthy. But getting them out of that and forcing it into Love's hands, massive part of that victory, because they can run the ball pretty well over there.
And I think they prefer to do that, right? They prefer to do that with the guys that they've had. I mean, they beat Indy that way, but that's kind of the way you have to go against Indianapolis, at least early. When you're down, that's the best way of taking somebody out of the running game, right? Especially, it's like teams like San Francisco. You want to put it in the hands of Brock Purdy. Well, there's a couple ways of doing it. We did it. They did it by design coming into this game. But if you get a lead on them, they have a hard time catching up quickly. So, absolutely took the running game off the shelf for them because they just didn't have time. And part of the hurry up offense, luckily for them, that hurry-up offense was built in during the week. It was something that they wanted to do to not allow her. They were switching it. Sometimes they'd hurry up, and then sometimes they would hurry up and then wait and read what our defense was doing to try to get the tip of the cap to find out what we were doing. So it was a strategy on their part, and they needed it because they were down so much and they were fighting the clock as much as they were fighting us.
You may have mentioned it, but I still think the most astonishing stat is after going through the gauntlet of playing the 49ers, the Texans, and the Packers, the Vikings have yet to trail for 1 second against any one of those teams.
Really? Right.
Yeah, the only time they've trailed was against the Giants, first couple minutes right after the fumble by CJ.
3 minutes, yeah, 3 minutes 26 seconds.
That's it.
They've trailed, and I stopped keeping track of it, Rosie. Middle of the second quarter yesterday. No, not that. It's I stopped keeping track of the lack of 3 and outs this year for the Vikings has just been astounding. Into the game, they had 4 3 and outs from like 31 possessions. And then it was 32, 33, 34, 35. So they're not going 3 and out, generally speaking. And I want to close it here. I love Blake Cashman. I mean, he went to high school with my son. They're the same age. So I've kind of known Blake for quite some time. But I, lost track of how he was playing with the Jets and the Texans. Smart, fast. Now, this guy's a game changer. What a wonderful signing, right?
He is. He's so smart. He's a lot like Ginkel. He has a great feel for the game. He's where he needs to be. And to bring Grenard, people like Grenard, Ginkel, put those guys together at the linebacker position. Gru J. Hill is, I think, benefiting from being part of that group, right? And the way that they go about their business. And with Metellus, everybody has their job taken care of, and they're working together to get it done, and they're all getting better. But the instincts of that of Cashman and the hustle, and I think that's the big thing, is he plays so hard. And when you play like that, you're not really going to have too many bad games, because in football, hustle makes up for a lot of it. And Cashman is just always in the right place at the right time, and that's a big deal. So I'm so glad he's part of the Vikings and he's wearing purple.
The analyst and a cameo from
HOF.
Great hearing from you, Rosie. Thanks, Pete. See you soon.
See ya.
Karl Anthony Towns was traded, the fan has learned, and we are going to offer up some more things on that around the corner. You're listening to 9 to noon at FM 100.3 KFAN, and we got some more money to give away.
Indeed, the fan and 2 men in a truck. They want to give you a chance to put $1,000 in your hand with the National Cash Contest. This hour's keyword is cash. You want some cash? How about $1,000 by texting or using the word cash at KFAN.com. KFAN.com, keyword cash.
Timberwolves on the 7-0 burst. Towns thought about a 3, puts on the deck, drives in and slams it through with the right hand. It's a 9-0 Wolves run. Nas off to Kyle Anderson. Hill running up down the lane off glass. 2 strong. Tip, follow that wooden drop for Cat. Cat's battling on the boards. He's got it. Put back. Yes, with the left hand. 5 to play in the first half. 13-0 Timberwolves run. Towns with it, right corner. He'll just turn fire over Murray. And drain it. It's a 3 for Karl Anthony Towns. Michael Malone needs a timeout. It's an 18-3 Timberwolves run. They lead by 16. It's their largest lead of the series. Nuggets won't foul here with 7 on the shot clock. Conley left angle. Drives on Michael Porter Jr. Runs it up. No. Slam follow. Karl Anthony Towns. He soared in from the wing. He puts the Wolves up 7 with 39 seconds left. Jokic up into the front court. Off to KCP. He'll rise up for the 3. It's offline. Towns has got the rebound with 30 seconds left. The Nuggets will back off. They won't foul. It's over. It's over.
Alan Horton, Radio Vox for the vast and ever-expanding KFAN Minnesota Timberwolves radio network. By the way, Wednesday, 9 to noon, is at Timberwolves training camp. The show starts with Chris Finch, head coach, at 9 o'clock, and concludes with said Vox, Alan Horton, at about 11:35. And you heard some Karl Anthony Towns highlights. The Minnesota Timberwolves traded Karl Anthony Towns to the Knicks for Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo, and a protected first from the Detroit Pistons. Karl Anthony Towns was traded and under the cover of darkness right before training camp. And Dane Moore, at Dane Moore NBA via Twitter, he said something about an hour ago when we had him on that I hadn't really thought of, like Dante DiVincenzo, wonderful 3-point shooter, and provides stingy and determined perimeter defense. And he's kind of always been known for that as he's negotiated his career team to team. But I like the way Dane put it, where he's like, with Anthony Edwards and Jaden McDaniels to a certain extent, but now Dante DiVincenzo gives you a better chance to slow Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic. And I'm like, wow, I guess I can cast my gaze that far because the Wolves are absolutely a playoff team, and quite honestly, a team that is better, in my estimation, after this trade, certainly deeper, and one that has a better chance to get to the NBA Finals than perhaps it did last year, if everybody stays healthy. But it just caused me to hearken back to Doncic and Kyrie Irving and those moments in the Western Conference Finals that I had forgotten about. And that was a major, major problem.
You felt helpless at times. And especially Kyrie's got both hands working, right? I mean, the left off the glass.
Yeah.
And Conley was doing the best he could in some of those moments. But having that conversation, what kind of body are you going to put on Luka? And Finch and Norrie tried just about every combo you possibly could.
Finch and Norrie.
And nothing
I forgot
was
that,
working.
too.
Oh, yeah. Finch is in the second row.
Sitting behind the bench, eating a hot dog with a fan, trying to draw a passing game. Yeah, I mean, wow. All right, 3-2. I mean, you have to re-rev this thing for Wednesday because Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo are in the mix. Now, here are some things I like. And here are some things that I love off this deal. Julius Randle is tougher than Karl Anthony Towns. I'm just going to leave that right there. You can take it wherever you want to take it. I mean, I've watched them play each other no fewer than 8 times, maybe just 6, 7, 8 times. I've followed Julius very closely in his career. I'm a fan. And I guess the cliche way to put it is he has dog in him. I mean, he is a tough bully ball customer, and he's skilled. His passing's better than Karl Anthony Towns too. I mean, Karl, within the last year, told us in his opinion he's the greatest big man shooting 3-pointers in the history of the NBA. With I guess no due respect given to Dirk Nowitzki or Kevin Love, but that's okay. Julius can shoot threes, but Karl Anthony Towns has a little unicorn to him with that. And they both rebound. Karl's bigger and he's taller and he rebounds better. Neither one are descript shot blockers. Julius Randle is a tough customer. He is a mentally tenacious customer, and he's not as tall as Karl, but not as much a 3-point threat, but just a naturally tougher cat. Now, he's not always on the ground. Markedly better ball handler off the pick and roll. That's not even close. I mean, Julius Randle's ball handling off the pick and roll, and when he and Brunson got going last year, holy cow. I mean, it was a thing of beauty. And, sometimes with Karl, there would be sometimes with Karl Anthony Towns, there would be with the elbows flailing, it'd be hide the women and children when he puts the ball on the ground and attempts to get to the basket.
Or the runaway freight train bit where they could set the charge with 10 feet of space.
Right.
And Karl was gonna run into it every time.
That ain't Julius. Julius is an adept and adroit and coordinated ball handler off the pick and roll. Chris Finch, 9 o'clock Wednesday to talk about all this. Julius Randle plays bully ball, and he's good at it. So I've always been a Julius Randle fan, and I'm glad he's on the team. Finch was with Julius Randle in New Orleans, always has spoken glowingly of him during his weekly 9 to noon appearances. Now, Randle had shoulder surgery in April, and he told Carmelo Anthony's podcast recently that he's ahead of schedule for return and would be good to go to start the season. I didn't listen to the podcast. I read that from a story on The Athletic. Now, Dante DiVincenzo averaged 22 point. How about this? Dante DiVincenzo shoots a lot of threes. He got really, really good at it last year, and he is a mentally tough, tenacious player. So we're developing a common thread here. The difference between stone cold skill and skill with mental tenacity. Now, DiVincenzo, in the semifinal playoff loss to the Indiana Pacers last year, Dante DiVincenzo averaged 22.7 points per game in that series. He was terrific. He's a 3-and-D guy. Shot 40% from 3 last season, quality perimeter defender, good ball handler, and can run the point at times. Some say Dante has one of the most team-friendly contracts in the NBA at $11 million and change for the season. Now, Karl plays center. All right. Now, Karl is going to be playing center for for the New York Knicks because Isaiah Hartenstein has gone to the Oklahoma City Thunder, and Mitchell Robinson is hurt, and he's forever hurt. So this is my opinion. I prefer Karl Anthony Towns as a stretch four. Having a Gobert with Karl Anthony Towns, I think, matters. And it led the Timberwolves to one of the better seasons in the history of Timberwolves basketball. So that's them for Knicks fan line. But the Athletics' John Hollinger, as I shared earlier with Dane Moore, he wrote this right after the trade. And John's super well respected within league circles with coaches and execs and stuff like that. Somehow, Minnesota's front office artfully handled it with two pieces that really fit and made the cap situation more tenable. I mean, that's for my money, that's the only way to look at it, is they got deeper. They got two pieces that fit. I would add, I think they got more tenacious. I think they got more defensively sound. And I think they got tougher. I think they got tougher overall. Yeah. And I think that's something that they coveted off everything they saw last year. Now, that awful Karl Anthony Towns contract, and we talked about it during the course of the season, so we're not cherry picking low hanging fruit here. I mean, I hate it every time I looked at it. It's $49 million for this year, then it goes $53, $57 million. Those are 3 years. He has a player option for $61 million in 27 and 28. I mean, Karl's good, and Karl was just an all-star, and you can win games with Karl. Ain't no doubt about it. But that contract, man, that is just a fat-ass contract.
The cool thing is, too, with Randall is you mentioned it, both of them with DiVincenzo, they make less than that 49 number with Cat. But I think Randall's contract's coming up I think it might actually be next year. Player option
so this year, then next year, player option.
And so if you love Randall, you will have some flexibility to potentially make that work in a year or so. But then you can also, now you have flexibility in the short term as part of the, I guess the window or the budding prime of Anthony Edwards to go in different directions where Karl Anthony Towns at nearly 30 years old, you kind of know what you're going to get, and you're locked in, like you said, effectively 4 more years.
The bid: Edwards, Gobert, McDaniels, Conley, Randall, Naz Reid, DiVincenzo, Alexander Walker, who joins 9 to noon Wednesday from the facility, Shannon Jr., Dillingham, and Ingles. That's a better mix than the one they had with Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah.
We all have opinions. They'll play the games. We'll see where it lands. That is a better mix, a deeper mix, a more multifaceted mix, and a tougher mix to beat than it was, say, 96 hours ago. The Hal has a better chance to win a title after this deal than it did before if Randall is not damaged goods. Now, this is key here. I mean, that shoulder surgery he had in April, they came back and tried to use him, and it just wasn't the same. So he on that Carmelo Anthony podcast, said, I'm good to go, man. I'm ahead of schedule. I'll be ready for the regular season. And that's when he thought he was still going to be a Knick. But, you still got to make sure that Julius Randle's not damaged goods. Not that they're getting damaged goods, but that it just has wear and tear on it that rears its ugly head during the course of the season and ruins things. And they have a better chance to win the title after this deal because of that. DiVincenzo is 3-and-D, and Naz Reid will thrive with added minutes. So that, just those takes right there kind of sum up the Karl Anthony Towns trade from my standpoint. But I mentioned, I've just seen this. These Kentucky Wildcats, man. I mean, they're incredibly prideful of their college. And of playing with certain cats, Devin Booker, Eric Bledsoe, Bam Adebayo, Anthony Davis, Julius Randle, Karl Anthony Towns. They're all over the place. And when they play each other, it's personal. And it always has been. I'm sure it's like that for, North Carolina Tar Heels and stuff like that. But there's so many Wildcats in the NBA. Whenever Karl Anthony Towns will play Anthony Davis or Julius Randle, or Bam Adebayo, but you'll get him a couple of times during the year. But he plays center. He truly is a center. Julius Randle more of a power forward, And Anthony Davis, he can play center, but he kind of plays the same game that Karl Anthony Towns does, save the threes, but he blocks more shots. Julius Randle's last 4 versus Karl Anthony Towns. Last year, 21 points, 14 rebounds. The game before that, or the other game, 39 points, 9 rebounds. In 2022, he went for 31 and 8. And then he had a 57-point game on the Timberwolves, and Karl Anthony Towns played. 57 points, 4 rebounds, 8 made threes. I mean, he played like he knew Cat wanted nothing to do with him. Kind of like what former Kentucky Wildcat Anthony Davis has done a majority of his career. So you can't teach toughness, and Julius has it. And the Wolves, I feel, won the deal and are better suited to make a title run than they were before the deal. And once again, Wednesday, 9 to noon, we are at TRIA Training Center for Minnesota Timberwolves training camp. Finchy to start the show, Nikhil Alexander-Walker, John Krasinski, the Vox Alan Horton, and Michael Grady, the TV Vox. They'll all be on the radio show, and we have a lot about which to chat with this Karl Anthony Towns deal. Also, much about which to chat with our Golden Gophers head coach PJ Fleck off that emotional and somewhat controversial and a loss to the Michigan Wolverines. And PJ's weekly appearance is next on 9 to noon. PJ Fleck, coach of the Golden Gophers football team, joins us weekly. The big house in the rearview mirror, the Trojan horse in USC and football immortality on the horizon. But for the now, good morning, PJ. Sources tell me it's your wife Heather's birthday today, which is fantastic.
It is her birthday. Yeah, she's 30 again. I just keep saying 30 again. That's how she wants it presented. So every year she's just 30 again, and we're celebrating Heather September 30th. So it's a good number to keep using.
Would you care to share your plans? Because any chance you take her to the league office to review that onside kick? That'd be a super special birthday gift.
She loved the trip to Chicago. I know that. She
yeah,
loved
right.
Chicago. We love that city. So, I'm game planning. I'm talking to you in the office. I got game plan today, and we celebrate her birthday. We do something we call Heather Palooza, and we do something in the end of June with a bunch of our friends to celebrate her birthday for a weekend. We all go somewhere, and that's when we do it, because she knows in September 30th, the only thing she's going to get is something football related. So either a game ball on her birthday if we win. She's going to get watching a game. She's going to have her husband away for game planning. So she's a great football coach's wife, though, because she understands that. But we get that celebration done on a whole weekend in June.
So when you have Heather Palooza end of June,
you'd love it, PA. You'd love it.
Why are you going to Las Vegas? You're going to Turks and Caicos? I mean, what would I love?
Always in Vegas.
Oh wow! Now, when you do things like that, or you're out of season, and you actually get these pockets where you don't have a lot, if anything, to think of for a short amount of time. Is it easy for you to put your job to the side? Like say Heather Palooza next year is going to be in Dallas, and it's going to take place in late June. Why are we going to Dallas, honey? Well, there's this kid in Tyler, Texas I've heard about for the last 4 months. No, it's because Dallas is a great city, honey. You know what I mean?
It is, and that's why we do it. We love our Twin City area. We love Minneapolis. We love St. Paul. We do date night every Thursday somewhere in the Twin Cities and St. Paul, and we switch it up a lot. And, we love that time together on Thursday nights. But when we get to that portion where we can actually go away, non-recruiting, non-football, we like to go somewhere that we both really enjoy and our friends enjoy. And, everybody's really doesn't care who anybody is, really. And that's why, we go to Cabo, we go to, Vegas. We love that. And we have a good time with a lot of our friends and some of the best restaurants and sun in the world, and have a lot of fun time. So that's why we kind of get away a little bit and step outside of where we're at, and I think it allows everybody to really just kind of let their hair down a little bit. I have no hair. I did. That's what it was doing.
That was great imagery there, metaphorically speaking. Now, so I have a tip for you in Las Vegas. I mean, have you or Heather Palooza, have you guys been to Las Vegas a fair amount of times?
Yes, we go there quite often.
Okay. Yeah. Well, so you've been to Mastro's at Cosmopolitan, right?
Absolutely, we have.
Have you ever had the butter cake? It's the single greatest dessert God ever has created. Tell me I'm wrong.
No, you're right. No, you are definitely right. I will give that the ringing endorsement for sure.
The butter cake, man, it's just delectable. All right, well, your press conference is taking place, and I understand that your stock response to the controversial onside kick situation was you're waiting for the league office to review it and stuff like that. I'm just going to lay it out like what an awful way to be denied a chance to win at the big house. And I know the other side of it could be, hey, do a little more earlier to keep it closer. You won't be in that spot. I've heard things like that with the Vikings or whatever a million times. But nevertheless, you were in that spot, and it's just an awful way to be denied a chance to win at that place. So I'm sorry about that, man.
Listen, I was told a long time ago, they're the A, B, C, Ds of life. 3 of them are really good. 1 of them's elite. Or 3 of them are bad. 1 of them's elite. The BCD is all about blaming, complaining, and deflecting. Mm-hmm. I've never done that, nor will I ever do that. We had almost 4 quarters to make a difference in that game, and it's not going to come down to the last play. Like, we had plenty of time. The A is about accountability. That's what I can control. I've got to get more out of the football team. We got to play 60 minutes of complete football. We got to execute at a higher level. We got to use our technique and fundamentals better. That's what I can control as a football coach, and that's what I'm going to continue to do. Leave the BCDs away. And our team has handled it, I think, in a very, very first-class fashion, publicly, socially, and they understand that, and that's what I love about the team. Let's take accountability for everything prior to that, and then we can go from there. And I think our team has done that and had a great day yesterday and getting ready to play the USC Trojans, another top 12 team.
Yeah, that very fair. And, at one point in that game, you're down 24-3 into the fourth quarter. So in what ways do you hope, PJ, or feel your team matured while storming back from that big deficit in a difficult place to win against maybe, you know 1,000 times more about it than me, maybe the best defensive line or front 7 you'll see all season?
Yeah, I think anytime that you win or lose a game, you're looking for things to make sure your team knows how good they are. And I've told this team they have to know how good they are for a long time now. And I think we have 5 games and 3 Power 4 opponent proof of how good of a team we are. We missed a field goal in the last second. We're up 14-7 against Iowa. We come back and we're 1 play away from beating Michigan in the big house. But close isn't good enough. And if we would be able to play more consistently for 60 minutes, and just play better, how we're capable of playing, we would have a different record. And we can only do what we can do with the next 7 games. But that provides a lot of hope and encouragement for what type of character and heart and will that this team has. And that's why I love coaching them. 2-10, 10-2. Like, this team's so fun to coach because what you saw in the second half on Saturday, that's what they believe they can do. But we just got to do it for 60 minutes now. And again, I think sometimes when people are telling you did such a great job and you came back and boy, that was such a great effort and this wasn't good and that wasn't good. And if this would have happened, that's just as bad of a pat on the back and rat poison as, hey, you beat Michigan. Great job. Like, it's just as bad. So yesterday our focus was let's learn from it. Let's see how we can play 60 minutes of football. And then guys, we've got to completely move on. And any pat on the back or, hey, you guys did this, we got to get that out of the way right now. And that was the moment in the locker room, and that was what yesterday was for. And now they've completely moved on from that, and our focus is USC.
Okay, and I'll move on from it too. But lastly, there were many fascinating sides to that game. Darius Taylor being from that area and scoring twice, and taking that massive hit on the first score and actually delivering the blow. That was impressive. So it's a team loss, but we can smell the roses for Darius Taylor, right?
Oh yeah, I think he's one of the better players in college football. And I think anybody'd love to have him. I thought that play, I think you hit it right on the head, PA, because he's really, really athletic. He's fast. He's agile. He's got great balance. He's smart. He's tough. But I think that play and the way he ran really signifies for his future of what he can be. He can be all those other things. He can be a great receiver. He can play in space. He can make people miss. But when you start adding that you can run people over and really go get those hard yards, which he has now proven, that I think he's on his way to becoming a complete back. And that's what we need him to be. And he's one of the best players in the Big Ten and obviously one of the best players on our team. And we got to continue to find ways to get him to football in multiple ways, which is very different than what we used to be. I think the days of, running Muhammad Ibrahim for 40 carries in one game and just doing that. I mean, we're not that same type of team. We've got to be able to do other things to move the football, and we got playmakers in other areas that can help us. So, and we have different running backs with different running styles. So I think that forces us to be able to look at the whole picture and get the most out of every player.
Hey, PJ Fleck joins 9 to noon each and every week, and right around 10:47. And with the USC Trojans, does it start and stop with that quarterback Miller Moss? I mean, I've caught him a couple of times, and he's just so naturally gifted, isn't he?
Oh, he's got such a feel for the game. People call him a gunslinger, and he's back there, but he's a football player playing quarterback. He's really accurate. It's one thing to throw the ball really well and accurately and hard and far and be able to do it while you're getting hit. It's another thing to be really, really accurate when you're doing it and make everybody else around you better. Now, everybody else around him is already really good, from running back to the O-line to the tight ends. He's got 4 or 5 wideouts that can all fly, and they're big and they're strong and long, and he's got some really good, quick, smaller guys. But to make everybody else even better, that's a special quarterback. And, he's doing his job. He's doing it at a high level. He's tough, but really, really accurate and really smart. And he's got a great understanding of what Lincoln's doing. And I've got a ton of respect for Coach Riley and what he's been able to do. And I think he was one of those guys years ago that kind of changed the way college football was played offensively. And he's done a really good job, had a lot of success. I mean, his college overall record, 77-19. Guy hasn't lost many football games, whether at Oklahoma or USC. So they're doing a lot of things right, and they got really good players, and they're executing at a high level.
PJ, I should know this. Ethan Robinson, I know he's FCS. Was he Bucknell?
He was Bucknell, yes, sir.
Yeah, so he has a couple of interceptions, and the times I get a chance to watch, and like watching long form, he just always jumps out to me. And Brosmer, and the progress he's making, that's New Hampshire. When you recruit FCS players, get them to come to the FBS, clearly you're looking for untapped talent, I would imagine. Is that part of it? And what goes into finding these FCS guys, because like Henderson, he's been here a couple of years. I mean, you're hitting on these FCS guys.
Yeah, there's 2 things I'm looking for, right? 1, I'm looking for fit, period. And then 2, I'm looking for gratitude. We're not going to be the highest bidder in this NIL market. Like, we're not the highest bidder. Yeah. I think that's very well documented with what our collective is versus other people's collectives. But I'm telling you this, I'm looking for people who are a right fit for our program, academically, athletically, socially, and spiritually, and that are grateful to be here. The number one thing I think that connects a locker room more than anything is gratitude. And if you watch the Minnesota Vikings play right now, that's a connected football team.
Yeah.
And that's a connected locker room. That's a great fit. And they're all grateful. And that connects a team more than ever. And the guys we bring in here, whether that's Benjamin St. Juste, whether that was Chris Williamson, whether that's, Ethan Robinson, whether that's Jack Henderson, whether that was Jack Gibbons, whether that was Max Brosmer, they have a ton of gratitude to be at this level. And I think that's what, they're coming from a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and that's all they're served. Now they're coming to training tables, they're coming to elite facilities. I mean, they think they're in the Taj Mahal, and they're grateful for it. And I think in our society, there's a lot of people who aren't. And if we can keep finding the right people and the right fit, we can keep getting the right culture, which gives us the best chance. It doesn't guarantee us anything, but it gives us the best chance with what we have in resources to put the best product on the field to go win games in the Big Ten.
Well stated. Last one, that Taj Mahal cafeteria you mentioned sometimes includes your favorite Golden Gophers basketball player, Parker Fox, who has come into studio and he wants to ask you a question. Parker, here's PJ, and I was kidding, kid. All right.
Hey, PJ. You talk about FCS guys getting the right guys in the program. Obviously, from my perspective, we've seen Max grow each week, and then this week in the Big House, allowing him to throw the ball 40 times. Do you kind of see more of the same? Do Gopher fans, should they expect to see more of the same of Max back in that pocket making plays throughout the rest of the season? Obviously, we know USC is a passing threat with Miller Moss. He threw the ball 45 times last game. Should Gopher fans kind of expect to see more Max Brosmer throwing the ball and getting that thing downfield?
Well, Parker, great question. I think the number one thing is we're always going to do what it takes to win a football game. There's times where you're going to have to rely a little heavier on the three-pointer in basketball because of somebody's defense or game plan. And then there's times you're going to have to really work it inside. And when we're down 21-3, though, we got to get back in the game, and we got to catch up pretty quickly. I think some of those numbers are a little skewed. We want to be balanced as possible, but Max is getting better and better. And I thought his second half performance was as gutsy as it gets. And same with the entire offense and the entire defense. I mean, it was as gutsy as we've played. We just have to be able to do that for 60 minutes. And no matter what it takes to win football games, we have to be really good at it. And I think with each game, we've been really good at it for a half or three quarters, but we haven't put it together for four quarters. And that ultimately is the head coach's responsibility. And I have to be better at making sure that we get the best chance to win for four straight quarters and play our most consistent football throughout the entire game.
Tear it up against Tommy Trojan, my brother. And happy birthday to your wife, Heather, okay?
I know she'll really appreciate that, PA. Row the boat, Sky, Go Gophers. Let's go, Vikes. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. PJ Fleck, weekly 9 to noon. Parker Fox, the basketball portion of the Sky equation. He's an elite sports mind. He stops by each and every Monday, and it's been quite emotional and an up and down weekend for old P Fox. And we'll explain that when we return to 9 to noon on KFAN.